ESO's 10th birthday is coming this year, and we should expect some awesome new stuff in 2024. The big reveal is on January 18th after the Xbox Developer Direct stream, but ZOS have already released some teaser promos, and we're all trying to decipher the clues in the letters and fragments they sent out. There are already plenty of theories about what's coming. Before we get into it, a few bits of business. 1. I'm Khan. Hello, I run the Ninja Balls Guild along with Maya. 2. Some of these observations have been very widely made, but some are just my own, so don't put any faith in them whatsoever. This is speculation, not prediction. 3. Potential spoilers ahead. If you don't want to daydream about what's coming, look away. 4. I'm gonna go fast. Please watch to the end before commenting. And finally, if you enjoy the daydreaming, hit subscribe because there's more on the way. So the letter accompanying the fragment is from Baragon, which has got to be the same Bosmer introduced in Blackwood and the older brother of Everly Sharparrow, who crops up in the Hrothgar, Flames of Ambition and Blackwood stories. Baragon is investigating some of his kin that have abandoned the Pact. Probably not the Ebonheart Pact as some have suggested, but the Green Pact, the Bosmer code which forbids them from harming the forest, eating plants, cutting firewood and so on. These renegades are somewhere on the west coast, apparently dangerous, and searching for something of great importance. Ain't that always the way? Baragon asks us to meet him in Grotwood and mentions not getting distracted by would-be emperors or Saliac ruins along the way. Would-be emperors might be a reference to the Blackwood storyline, but it could also hint at what's coming. If you didn't know, Saliac, or perhaps Saliac, is another word for Ayleid, the wild elves whose empire once spanned much of the continent and whose distinctive white structures dot the landscape in Cyrodiil, Valenwood and many other zones. Saliac is not a new term. There are references to it back in the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, and possibly earlier, but it looks like many of the references occur in ESO, and quite recently in the Ayleid Crown Crates, for example. Again, this may mean nothing, but it feels like a hint, and we will come back to it. Now let's look at the fragments that were sent out. There is sort of stained glass, which reveal their design when you hold them up to the light. Very cool. So much has been said about these already, but I'll run through the things I spotted. Keep in mind that a lot of this is total speculation, so don't get excited or pessimistic about any of it. We're not making predictions here, just having a bit of fun with the cryptic clues we've been given. The wheel has 12 sections like the months of the year. The depiction of time as a wheel is also a very old and very cool concept. First, there are Oblivion sigils everywhere. Not a reference to the game, but to the various planes of Oblivion. It could even be just the letter O, but I tried really hard to spot other Daedric letters in these repeating designs and couldn't come up with anything convincing. The Fargrave symbol is there twice, also suggesting travel to Oblivion, since Fargrave acts as a sort of transit hub between realms. We also have the Eye of Hermaeus Mora and something which looks an awful lot like the Crown of Mephala. We also know this is a continuation of the Necrom story and that the Daedric princes will be involved to some degree. I mean, they usually are. There's a symbol here which looks very similar to the Mages Guild badge, but with a winged motif. I felt certain I'd seen this before but couldn't figure out where. Maybe it's because in Skyrim the College of Winterhold symbol has a very similar shape, and I might have spent a few hours in that game. The winged motif is also very Altmer, so it could be a reference to the original Mages Guild which was in First Hold on Auridon. The lamp is a bit of a mystery, but it's been suggested that it could refer to the Knights of the Lamp or Order of the Lamp, the military wing of the Mages Guild, who would go on to accompany Vanus Galerion in the final battle with his great rival Manimarco, an epic showdown where 1,000 were killed. Spoiler alert, Manimarco shows up in the Daggerfall and Oblivion games, so we know he escapes from Molag Bal at some point, and we know that the final confrontation between him and Galerion takes place after the plane meld. Again, total speculation based on a picture of a lamp and nothing more, but wouldn't it be kind of perfect for ESO's 10th anniversary if Manimarco, in many ways the villain of the original story and such a huge figure in the series, were to make his return? It would also provide a great excuse to bring back the other companions from the original story. Crown Crate artwork for this year has already been leaked with those characters, but that could easily be a birthday thing and nothing story related. Still, the Manimarco connection is fun to think about and would explain these two symbols. But it is just a theory and there's not much else here or in Baragon's letter to support it. Next, there's a pretty unmistakably Ayleid-looking tree, the kind we see on doors and Ayleid ruins, and I can't help but see a resemblance to the acorn-like symbol the Bosmer use on their banners and in their architecture, but that might just be a coincidence. It did get me thinking about something though, just hear me out. When the Ayleids were overthrown and driven from Cyrodiil by their human former slaves, a lot of them ended up in Valenwood and were forced to adopt the Green Pact if they wanted to survive. And gradually the Ayleids were absorbed into the local population and vanished, even though Valenwood is still full of their ruined cities and the marks of their influence. There is a ton of lore about this. Apparently the giant tree of Elden Root used to move around like the capital Falinesti, but when the Ayleid refugees arrived, one of their kings broke the Green Pact and made the tree take root and stop moving. In typical Elder Scrolls fashion, it's all a bit weird and metaphysical, but one of the lorebooks says he took the perchance acorn and showed it an ending, making it a definitive acorn. That's why the tree stayed in one place, and why there's so much Ayleid architecture all around it, including the orrery and the Elden Hollow dungeon. Another book says the Saliake, the Ayleids, were led to Elden Root by Meridia's shining colours, which told them this was her gift and blessing, and that's why they tried to make their new city there. Lots of you have commented that the pattern in the middle of the wheel looks a bit like Meridia's symbol. That might be a stretch, but I thought the same thing. It also evokes Thoat Replicanum a bit, but maybe that's just inevitable with the whole faceted glass thing. Always fun to learn more about Meridia, but either way, all this talk of acorns and taking root definitely makes me look at that Ayleid tree with the acorn shape and the roots and wonder. Again, just an idea and it could be way off base, but a lot of this lore comes from ESO itself, not from earlier games. And the more I thought about what Baragon mentions in his letter, the more I loved the idea of a bunch of wood elves identifying with and even fetishizing a lost heritage and culture. We see it all the time in the real world, and doing everything they can to be true Ayleids. Turning away from the Green Pact, worshipping Daedra, maybe even plotting to recapture their ancient home in Cyrodiil. Which brings us to the most obvious and maybe most significant one, the two-moon symbol of Skingrad, a city in Cyrodiil and a major location in the Oblivion game, which isn't currently in ESO. This part of the map, the West Weald, which connects with Kvatch and Anvil, has been talked about and hoped for in previous years, because it's such an obvious gap and such a beloved location. It was referred to obliquely in Blackwood, another Ayleid relic quest. Personally, I thought this list of demands was a Die Hard reference, but either way it's clear something's going down in Skingrad. All we know about the city at the time of ESO is that it supported Varen's bid to become Emperor, managed to stay mostly out of the Alliance War, but that the local Imperial Legion invaded northern Valenwood and sacked Arenthia, a Bosmer city with a large Khajiit population. That's part of the Reaper's March storyline. The crack between two fragments of the wheel runs right over this part, which is probably deliberate, but there's little doubt about the symbol, and Zos specifically say in their announcement that we're seeing a new, yet familiar, region of Tamriel. Pretty vague, and I want to avoid making predictions because we just don't know. So many people confidently predicted spellcrafting last year, and they were completely wrong. But on that subject, when the spellcrafting system was first shown, almost 10 years ago, we saw a character searching Ayleid ruins to find the ancient classrooms and rune tablets, and Zos used the phrase "we're crafting something special this year" in the announcement article. Personally, I think a spellcrafting system would be so difficult to balance that I'm not sure why anyone would wish for it, but it has been a hot topic ever since launch, and Zos know this. We do get a new system each year, and this is one that we know they've put work into in the past, so it's not unreasonable to suggest it might finally be coming. We'll see. No predictions. Finally, I should say something about the tree and the crescent symbols. Because of the Wood Elf connection, people have suggested that this represents Falinesti, and that the lost walking tree city might finally return. That would be cool. The autumnal colours might suggest the Falinesti autumn site, which is also in Reaper's March, but I honestly don't feel like there's enough evidence to really run with that idea. Wood elves and pictures of trees isn't exactly a rare combination, so I'm not sure what to think about this one. Some have suggested that the crescent shape represents Ifre, the Wood Elves' favourite deity, whose symbol is sometimes a Greek-style lyre. If so, its strings have been cut, which could symbolise the breaking of the Green Pact. But again, I'm not convinced that this is meant to be a lyre or a harp. It looks more like a necklace or an amulet to me, or the crescent symbol that the Khajiit use. And the shape of the central rectangle also kind of reminds me of Khajiit architecture, with those layered rooftops. Pretty sure that's a coincidence though. I don't really have any bright ideas about these ones, so I'll leave it at that. There are lots of other little things. The announcement article features an image depicting a tower and a battle, Cyrodiil presumably, and the art for the Twitch drop emote clearly shows the Mages Guild and various characters casting different versions of the same spell. But before you freak out and say spellcrafting confirmed, keep in mind that last year's emote had literally nothing to do with Necrom or Apocrypha. There probably is some significance to the object itself. The Elder Scrolls series has a rule that every document or description has to be something that exists in the world. Is this a stained glass window from some abandoned place of worship? Maybe it's very old and depicts a prophecy. Or maybe it's just the spinner from an ancient alien game of Twister. Nothing is off the table at this point. That about does it. If you came here hoping for rock hard predictions, I hope you're not too disappointed. I just don't want to mislead anyone. We can't know what's coming. But it's fun to speculate and look at the game from some new angles, and I'm pretty sure that's the whole point. Take it easy on me in the comments section, guys. I already know that I skipped some theories, and there are probably some obvious things that I missed as well. This video already took way too long to research and write, and I didn't want it to get too long. Thank you for watching. I will see you on the 18th for the reveal and loads more analysis on what's coming to ESO this year. Hope you're excited.